computer here. Okay, so here we are. We're having a creating software world meeting today with James and Renee and George and what I decided to do is read just a few paragraphs here. This is the first chapter in creating a software world of the book. An idea whose time has come. Nothing is as powerful as an idea whose time has come, Victor Hugo. Bill Wilson, the founder of Alcoholics Anonymous, believed that the community of mutual support that he and his AA co-founder, Dr. Robert Smith, had begun in 1935 would one day save our troubled world. In a speech he gave at the Second World Services Conference held at St. Louis, Missouri in 1955, Bill said, "There are those who predict that Alcoholics Anonymous may well become a new spearhead for a spiritual awakening throughout the world. When our friends say these things, they are both generous and sincere. But we of AA must reflect that such a tribute, such a prophecy could well prove to be a heady drink for most of us. That is, if we really came to believe this to be the real purpose of AA. If we commence to behave accordingly, our society therefore will prudently cling to its single purpose, the carrying of the message of the alcoholic who still suffers. Let us resist the proud assumption that since God has enabled us to do well in 1 hour, we're destined to be a channel of saving grace for everybody." Bill was quite aware that AA needed to focus on helping alcoholics and not allow pride and grandiosity derail it from its primary purpose. Bill's wife, Lois, affirmed the sense of the world changing potential of the movement that might come to fruition when the principles upon which it was based become familiar to more and more people. At the AA World Services Conference in Montreal in 1985, Lois declared, "I believe, as Bill did, that if he could find a way to give others what he had, he would begin something that would change the world." Bill and I have always believed that as more and more people embrace our way of life and reach out in love to others, the principles on which our fellowship is based will one day save our troubled world. Frank Bookman, I should need to say Bookman, likewise believed that what he had passed down to AA, his way of gathering as a first century Christian fellowship, the Oxford group, would one day save our troubled world. In a talk he gave a few months before his passing in 1961, he said, "I want all to feel they have a share as they partake of the priceless boon which has come to them and to me through the Oxford group. They can best perpetuate this gift by carrying forward a philosophy that is adequate for a world crisis and that will at last bring the nations to the long looked for golden age ushered in by the greatest revolution of all time, that where the cross of Christ shall transform the world." And I'm just going to stop right there because I'm going to post this probably on my YouTube channel. And I've got, maybe 100 YouTube videos of the meetings we had when we were studying the Nothing book. But here we are really beginning to promote the question, how do we create a soul world, and begin to invite people into the meeting. I think the space that we've created a space that's pretty robust, and that we're beginning to attract people like Renee and some other people. And I think it's time that we put it on the video and say, look, here's what we're doing, and put it. We got it in writing here now. The first chapter. This is what we're up to. And so anyway, I'm going to stop right there. And any comments? Did you want to say anything, Renee?
No, I think you're right on track about attraction rather than promotion, and holding the energy that we want to communicate. I think that's going to be the most effective way to.
And that's so key, Renee. The thing I'm just real concerned about is that energy that you and I connected with last week. And I just want to make sure that that doesn't evaporate. That anything that I say or do that would, put a bubble, like kind of cause that to burst. That's just not. I don't want that to happen. So that's why I'm very, very careful. And then also the thing that happened with James connected and really seeming to connect also at the same time. So I'm going to be calling James and talking with him and making sure he's on board with this. In fact, one of the things I'm thinking of is that this noontime meeting is not conducive for him to join us. But I'm looking at the time zones, and maybe something like a 6 p.m. meeting would work, or maybe something later in the afternoon. Let me see. We look at right now an alternate Z, and it's now 4:33, so we could actually do some maybe 3 hours, 2 hours, or 3 hours later, or maybe an hour and a half later, or say 2 hours later. Okay, so we started at noon. That'll be 4 o'clock, so maybe 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock. Maybe he could join us in the early morning, or maybe he could get up at 4 o'clock. I don't know, but I could ask him, would you be willing to join us at 12? I mean, at noon our time, or 1 o'clock, or 2 o'clock, and put this meeting back a little bit, and have James begin to join us, and begin to really take it real slow and easy, and just begin to build this. And how about that for an idea? You think that would be a good idea?
Yeah, I think I'd be flexible like that.
You'd be
I don't
okay
know
with
about you,
that?
James.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Well, so I'll be calling James today and see about that. Any comments you have, James? James C. in Tampa?
Well, let me make a comment about what you just talked about. I'm out and about here Monday through Friday, George, and I'm good with whatever would help. Eric out on the West Coast and Jay out on the West Coast, and now Renee, your time zone is what, Western? You're west of us, and
No, I'm
about a
Atlantic, so 1 hour ahead. So right now I've got 1:35 p.m.
okay, so you're 1 hour ahead. Gosh,
Yeah.
that is so amazing. How was did you get any of that storm that came up through there? That Hurricane Lee?
Yeah, Hurricane Lee. So what happened is it kind of was in this area, but we got rain and we got some high winds, like probably 40-mile-an-hour winds, nothing major. And so it seems like it hit Nova Scotia much harder than it has. Look, so I'm in New Brunswick, kind of close to the Nova Scotia border. The
Yeah.
Fundy Coast, I don't know if you know where the Fundy Tides are, if you've heard of that. I'm more closer to that tidal
I
area.
know that area going up there. They were worried
So
about a bunch of the waves coming through.
yeah, that's
But yeah, I'm but I am one of those guys that because it happened to me, and not because of learned or because of a decision that I made, because it happened to me, I'm one of those guys that I see Alcoholics Anonymous um, as a um, as a fantastic way to, as it says, to increase my conscious contact with God. And it moved me into a position of again, and I have to watch that, and I have to watch my tongue, because it's not necessarily that it has to be that way. God works the way God works, and for me, he just blew me away. He changed my heart, and it's difficult for me not to say, you're supposed to get a relationship with God out of this, and you're not doing it, so you're not doing it right. But I pray for all AAers. I pray for all 12-step people that God make this their day of salvation, that God touch them in a way that he touched me. I'm sure he touches many, but I can tell it's so far it's not all. And I have to watch myself that I'm not I don't put people off with you know, basically browbeating them into a relationship with God because it happened to me. So um, listening to what Bill and later on his wife were talking about, and the comments of having house meetings, which is such a fantastic growth part of any of the 12-step programs, AA, UA, any of them, CA. Um, so I'm a firm believer in what they're doing as far as getting the word out to the next hurting alcoholic or drug addict. I see them on the streets, and I pray for them all day long. And my wish is that you know, God would just touch them, and that's what it takes. Touch their ears to hear
Thanks.
what's
Thank
being
you, James.
said.
Thank you,
Yeah.
James. Well, I just want to kind of wrap it up a little bit, and thank you, James, because what you said really kind of what I wanted to say is that when the church came into the Roman Greco-Roman Empire, I'm sure it shared Jesus Christ not in the way that the universal church shared it, and the church has been sharing it now for 1700 years. And maybe I think Frank Buckman was what he was trying to do is to create these kind of contagious groups that would share the presence of God in a way that would allow people to join in and be transformed. And of course, Bill Wilson took it and it ended up just in Alcoholics Anonymous. And I think that Frank Buckman's vision was that the church could be transformed into this. And you see it happening. So many people go into the house church movement and small group church movement that people do like small groups. So the idea here is to create a model, our own small group that might be contagious, that we can all get together and maybe 3 or 4 or 5, then 6 or 7, 8, 9, 10 of us get together and then, like we do in UA, break it up into the groups all over the country, all over the world, face-to-face groups. There's no telling what'll happen, but we can't get ahead of ourselves. We have to have, first of all, one successful small group that really embodies the whole vision. And so that's what we're doing here with this idea of creating a sober world. And I couldn't have had spoken the sentence I just spoken without James kind of setting me up a little bit and Renee setting me up. And you can't even have the conversation. That's why it's key to have you guys come into the room and share what you're sharing, because this is the conversation we're trying to have. We're basically having it. So I'll stop right there. Anything you want to say, Renee? And what we'll do is we'll kind of bring this to an end, because I think we said all that we can actually digest right today between what we've read and what we said. But how about you just saying one more share, Renee, and then we'll begin to wrap this thing up.
Yeah, thanks, gentlemen, both of you. I really appreciate the shares.
Okay.
I think
right.
the most important thing is go back to holding the energy.
Right.
I love the spiritual principle of attraction rather than promotion, and keeping a high flying place for us to meet and to discuss high flying, to create high flying opportunities for us to experience this presence of love, of call it higher power, call it Jesus. I mean, I had an altar call that changed my life, so I understand that relationship with Jesus. I've also had other experiences with other entities as well, so it's not just that for me. But and just to just for reference, I've been clean in an A since 1995, so that's how I first got introduced to the 12-step program.
Yeah.
And of all the things I've
you
ever
say
done,
A or you say NA?
NA.
Yeah, yeah, okay.
Yeah, I got clean in NA in
I thought you said
1995.
so, yeah.
So it's been an amazing journey because I love the 12-step program. I love the idea that it's essentially free unless you want to contribute. That there is no sort of other agenda other than our own well-being and the holding that space for the presence of higher power to work in our lives and for the love of each other. I think there's just something so magical about this whole thing. So yeah, if we can continue to hold that in a way that appeals to more people than just maybe people that are identifying as alcoholics or addicts, or just so that everybody in the world can realize that they can use this, that they need this. Honestly, if we're ever going to get to this place where we work cooperatively instead of separately, and we release the idea of self-sufficiency or self-reliance, that we realize that we're already connected to wellness. There's no reason to try to separate us from each other ourselves. So, anyways, I guess that would be, I'd be delighted to participate in that with you gentlemen.
Thanks, Renee. Let me just do real quick before I do anything else. Oh, I've got to. If my hearing aids go out, it's because the battery went beep beep. But what we'll do, we'll go ahead and wrap this up. But what we'll be doing, I just want to say, on Sunday nights we have been trying to meet with two or three people here in Tampa. We've been talking about starting a discipleship group, and there's 3 other people that James and I were meeting with, and I'm going to make sure they get this video and invite them to come meet with us on maybe we'll do it later on Monday afternoon, or maybe later on in the evening, say 6 p.m. on Monday afternoon, and let that begin to be the kind of the center of this discipleship, they call discipleship group. But that all, we're doing the same thing. What we're trying to do is kind of keep the energy, right, James? I mean, we got some real good energy there with those people that we were meeting with, and we just want to keep that going. That's what we're up to, really, is to make sure we keep it alive, keep that spirit going. We're praying, and James and I we didn't pray yesterday because James got out and worked on his truck, so normally we pray, but I'm always praying about this, so I'm always on this. So and I keep deepening my commitment to keep this in prayer. I'm doing my 10th, 11th, and 12th step all the time. So anyway, it's great being with you guys. What we do is just go ahead and close out. What I'll do is I'll just boot up our little thing here. We have we do our closing prayer here. In closing, the attorneys expressed here today are strictly hang on. Somehow or another, I'm not getting that. In closing, the attorneys expressed here today are strictly those of the individuals who gave them. The things you've heard here are spoken in council should be treated as confidential. We don't take outside the meeting here in the meeting. If you try to store what you heard, you're bound to get a better understand the way you'll handle your problems and begin to change your life. Talk to each other, reason things out with someone else. Not that we know gossip or criticism of one another, but only love, understanding, companionship. Now, please, all who want to join together and say the we version, and we use the Saint Francis. Let's just use the Our Father today. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Okay, well, that's the meeting for today. Fellas, bless you guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thanks, James. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
Blessings. Thank you for being here. Thank you very much.